I request you to please come forward and join this table so that we have two teams. So I'll just set the context for this session. I'm going to be sharing some best practices that we use at Salesforce to build a powerful self-organizing team. My role at Salesforce is of an enterprise agile coach, and I work from Hyderabad office. We have the biggest R&D center of Salesforce based out of Hyderabad. So all the development works takes place from there. We do have offices in Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai, and Delhi, but those are majorly sales offices. So, have you heard of Salesforce before?
Yes.
What do you know about it? What do we do?
Cloud.
Yeah, it's a cloud computing company. Nowadays, we are also in use for the intelligence that is built into the platform. So, it's a platform as a service. So, you have all the tools, framework required to build apps on top of the platform. It's also software as a service. You can customize the CRM to your needs and then use it. So there are multiple things that you can do. Have you guys been using Jira?
Yes.
So you must be familiar with Atlassian.
Yes.
And we all have, most of us have either an Android phone or an iPhone, right? So we have something called Play Store or App Store from where we download the applications, right? Different applications on different categories. So similarly, you can build applications on top of Salesforce platform and then host it to the marketplace where Salesforce users can use those as plugins to achieve their work. Like you have Atlassian Marketplace where you can find apps that you find some limitations in the Jira software, so you want to top it up with the app. So there is a marketplace for that. So similarly, we have something called App Exchange, where users also can build applications on Salesforce, and then they can share their solutions with the users. Some solutions are paid, some solutions are free. So our headquarters is in San Francisco, and the company started in the year. Any guesses?
Maybe about 18 or 20 years ago.
You can Google. Let's see who tells me the first. Who tells me the answer first?
About 20 years ago, I guess.
Yes, 20 years ago. Which year exactly?
2099.
1999.
1999. So it's very first year.
21 month.
Yeah. So when Salesforce was started, it just started from the apartment of Mark Benioff. Mark Benioff is the CEO of Salesforce. He started this company with the idea of no software, wherein at that time the software will come in a CD-ROM, and then or you have to download it from a link given. Mostly it will be desktop-based application that you will have to customize it with the help of a consultant. So getting a software, getting it installed for your system and getting it customized was a very time-consuming process. And also the changes that an analyst is doing on their machine have to be reflected for everyone else. So there have to be a server setup and all those things, so that the exchange of information can happen in the real time. Because the moment you pull out that PDF report and send it to your colleague, by the time they see it, the information is not current. So the whole idea behind starting Salesforce was to provide that real-time experience to the customer so that they can be successful with their customers. So Salesforce offered B2B as well as B2C solutions. So I'm not here to sell Salesforce today. My job at Salesforce is of an enterprise agile coach. So now that I've told you how awesome the growth have been from the last 20 years with just three members starting this work from a small apartment. Now it has grown to a global office with there is a Salesforce tower that houses 1,000+ employees in San Francisco, and we have about 1,000 employees in Hyderabad. So that tells the growth that is achieved over years, and with growth there comes its own challenges, right? So when there is a small team, suppose if this is just the team who is working on the software, it is very easy for them to collaborate. They are at the same table, they can easily talk to each other. But what happens when the team grows to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or even 6 teams? What will happen to the collaboration and the communication? So to build any software effectively, we need to have clear priorities. To be successful with the right features that should go into the market, we should identify our priorities. So sometimes priorities will be conflicting. One team will say this should be priority because we have technical dependency on that. Another team will say no, this feature is very important, so we should be building that first. So there will be conflict in priorities, and it will become like a web of communication wherein we will come up with a lot of tools to keep ourselves informed. Within the company, we will use a Slack channel for internal team communication. We may have a collaboration group for a business unit. So there will be a lot of, or you will have even emails on which you are receiving information. So there are a lot of, with all these channels, what happens is there is a problem in connecting with the real vision that the company wants to achieve in the next end of the fiscal year, or at the end of the next 5 years, what do we want to achieve. So such problem was faced by Salesforce as well in the year 2007, when they did not release any new feature to the market for 15 months. So then what happens when a software is not, when a company is not releasing new features or not fixing any bugs? What impression? Yeah.
Go away from.
Yeah, so it will perceive that okay, this is going to be declining in the next couple of months, or going forward we don't see a lot of usage of this. Maybe that is why they have discontinued the maintenance of this. So what will happen is the customers will start losing the trust. So in the year 2007, looking at all the challenges that were there in the company at that time, it was not related to any technical skill gap. It was more about collaboration. It was more about people getting confused between priorities and then not knowing where to go. So then Agile was identified as a solution, and same year Salesforce has announced the Big Bang approach for Agile adoption. So we didn't wanted to pilot it with few teams and see if it is working. So at that time, the taking risk was very important. So they have announced it for the entire organization, and then the immediate impact was that the releases were streamlined. So we now release software every 3 times in a year as part of major releases. The bug fixes, the e-releases happens, patch releases, they do happen every day or sometimes multiple times in a day. But any new feature development, customers know that okay, these are the timings wherein I can expect new features to be released. So the alignment, we were able to achieve the alignment with the help of Agile, and recently we also celebrated Agile completing 10 years successfully in the organization. So as team of coaches, we have identified that as every month we see some 30-40 new hires joining in the R&D organization itself, which is a development org. And then there are 2 more business units, customer success group, which is a customer facing team who is making sure that the customer is having a forum to share their feedback upon their current usage of the product and what new features they want. And then there is a business technology team, BT, we call it as BT. They build custom apps for the customer. So I work for the R&D team where we are working on the platform development itself. So within R&D we see that every month there are 30-40 new hires just in Hyderabad. So every location there is hiring going on. So we know that we are going to get into bigger challenges. And so we have come up with a homegrown approach for scaling Agile in our organization. So you might relate it to a little bit of DAD, little bit of SAFe, or little bit of other scaling frameworks that you have learned in the past few years. So these are the best practices we have identified by studying many different frameworks, including Nexus and other things. And then I want to share today how we are making teams in Salesforce as a powerful self-organizing teams. So that was the context. This is not the end of my presentation. This is how generally I begin my presentation, with a thank you. So I see good number of participants. Initially I was a little bit disappointed, oh I have only 2 tables here. But then I see people joining, so it increased my confidence now. So thank you for being here and listening to how we do Agile and scale it at Salesforce. So we have a team of Agile coaches. Our Agile coaching team is basically focused on different priorities. So we call in each business unit, that is R&D unit, we have identified the clouds. So as it is a cloud computing company, there are different areas in each, like for example, there is a kernel cloud which takes care of the core app development. There is a infrastructure team who make sure that the infra is always updated. And then there are feature development teams, components teams, like that. So we have enterprise Agile coaches who work across Salesforce to make sure that there are some practices with which we are gaining alignment. But then every cloud is working differently. Like if you go for a feature development cloud, then they know their priorities for the next release. They know what they want to release. So their work is pretty much planned. But then in case of infra, their work is not planned. They have to work on automation. Automation can be planned a little bit, but then there is a frontline team who manages any just-in-time issues and corrections. So their work is not pretty much planned. So at the organization level, we don't prescribe you go for Scrum or Kanban. So when we do this onboarding class on Agile with the new hires, we tell them the overall overview of Agile, and then the teams will pick for them what framework or method they want to use. So enterprise coaches works on designing the content, training content and workshops part, and then there are cloud coaches who are aligned with the particular cloud and they work with the teams. They go and attend their retrospectives as an observers, and then later on they share the feedback with the Scrum Master. So cloud coaches are more involved hands-on with the teams. And then there are location coaches specific for that location. For example, Hyderabad we identify as a location which is a hub of multiple clouds. So if we have to hire cloud coaches, we may end up hiring 20. And enterprise coaches are at the global level. They are mostly based out of HQ. So the location-based coaches is a combination of the both. So they have to work with the enterprise coaches team, plus they also have to have face time with the teams in the cloud, in all the different clouds. So you can say that my role is more of a location coach, which is a mix of cloud plus enterprise coaching responsibilities. So this is our team vision. This is the Agile Coaches team vision. We want to inspire and guide TMP. TMP stands for Technology, Marketing and Products, which is a name for the R&D group that we have that does the development. So to deliver high quality products and services through healthy, optimized and efficient practices. So I'm going to be focusing upon this healthy part here. What makes our Agile teams healthy in terms of their Agile practices, and this health indicator actually defines their strength and power. So this is how this is our framework for achieving Agile at scale. So it starts with education. We have onboarding class for new hire, which is a full day Agile practices and principles immersion session. And then we have our in-house Salesforce Scrum Master certification and Salesforce Product Owner certification, which is different from PSM and CSM in a way that you get your PSM and CSM when you attend a class and you take the exam, right?
Yeah.
That's how you get PSM and CSM certified. So at Salesforce, we go a step ahead. We take one more step. So after someone has taken training and then they have passed the exam, the coach will be observing them on the job, how they are facilitating effective retrospective meeting or effective agile meetings for their teams. So based upon 2 to 3 observations, every observation is followed by a feedback discussion meeting with the Scrum Master or the product owner. And then once the agile coach is satisfied, then the person gets certified. So that is how we are also focusing on how the learning from the training is brought back into the teams. So that's a 3-step certification process. And then based upon need, like public cloud, we are moving to public cloud now. Every company is moving to public cloud, going mobile and focusing on artificial intelligence. So whenever there is a change, we can have 2 kinds of issues. Like I am interested in this, but I don't know how to do it, which is a rather easy problem to fix because you can provide the training to them, or you can provide them help on the job, align them with an expert who can bring them up to speed. The other part is I don't want to do it. So there is a lack of motivation, and I will not be surprised by that because technology is something that is ever changing, and what I have learned 2 years back may not be relevant for me today, and I don't know what is the journey of this person has been who is saying this I don't want to do it. I should not just see this person as someone who is not looking forward to the change, right? I should not see this in a negative light. In fact, I should try to understand what is the reason for this and then ask open questions. Any agile coaches here? Please raise your hand. What open questions do you ask to get more information? So when I say open questions, it doesn't end into a yes or no. It rather gives us more information, right? So suppose a Scrum Master comes and tells me, I thought that Scrum Master role is very easy, but I don't think I am up for it. So I would respond saying, okay, tell me more. What is it that is not working? So the idea is to have a conversation and then try to understand why they don't want to do it. So broadly saying skill issue or a will issue, right? So skill issue is something that we work in collaboration with our L&D team, and we tell them that these are the trainings that you should plan for this year in terms of technology or in terms of leadership skills development. In terms of will issue, it has to be addressed individually with that person because they may have different reasons for that. And yeah.
Talking about Salesforce in team executions, cloud and AI, etc.
Yes.
Pretty prominent now. Probably teams that you coach or your Scrum Master, they might be executing things on this. How much relevance do you think the Scrum Master or an Agile coach, or how much relevant is it for them to have knowledge around these areas?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. So, if you have been in a company where you have seen
being an Agile coach, or let's say you are coaching a team, right? Now the team is doing primary work on let's say cloud or AI. So as part of the certification process that you talked about,
yes,
for the coaches or Scrum Masters as well, or professional industry ones apart, is there any knowledge that is translated to the coaches or the Scrum Masters on the areas on which the team is working?
No.
Do you think that is critical or not?
In our role as an Agile coach, it is not critical.
How do you then generate the empathy with the team?
So
if you're not, see sometimes, it's not that we have to be an expert or not an expert, But if you don't understand what issue the team is facing, the gravity, the
yeah,
severity of
that
it,
level of
how do we
understanding
coach?
will be there. But an agile coach may not be able to write an AI algorithm.
Yeah, that's what I
Correct,
said.
yeah.
You need to be a person who can
Yes,
write it.
but
do
they
you
will
think-
have an idea what is going on
Do you
with this
think
team.
what it is, probably, just at the macro level, understanding?
Yes,
Do you think it is
that is
critical or
important.
not?
Yes.
Do those elements come in the education?
Yes, so that is part of our education. Like as agile coaches, we try to understand the different teams, how they work and what they work upon. So we have internal sessions to understand how R&D is working and expanding. And then we have one-to-one team, and we also coach as leaders and evangelize the why more than the how. And then to scale it is important that we maintain an agile or lean organization. Agile is mostly looking forward to what improvements you will make, and lean is mostly about looking back into your processes and seeing what can go. So in order to maintain an agile or lean organization, it is important to have both perspectives. And organization-wide initiatives which are led by location-based coaches or enterprise coaches. For example, there was this enterprise enterprise initiative called hybrid engineering, wherein the whole idea was quality is everybody's responsibility. So the developers have to build the tester's mindset while they are writing the code. So we tied up with LogiGear to provide training on testing mindset. So that received a push from the development, from the programmers, that we have a dedicated testers on the team, why should we worry about this, it is their job. So those are examples of organization-wide initiatives which are important to inculcate some values like quality is everybody's responsibility. These days even security is considered as everybody's responsibility. So things like that which cannot be ignored. Again here the skill or the will thing comes into picture. And then we have continuous improvement. So at every cloud level we run a survey once in a year called Agile Health Survey. So it consists of questions that are specific to that cloud. It includes technical best practices assessment, the process assessments, and how their Scrum Master and Product Owner is able to bring the value to their teams. So I will not have time to go into each and every metric, but I have shared this presentation with the organizers here. So they will be sharing with you what are the areas in each category, that is technical, process, Scrum Mastering and Product Owner, that we measure. So these are again bit subjective, based upon each team member how they are, what they think is their response. We also go back into the GUST, which is our agile tool internally, to look at the data as to what is the code coverage and what is it that the numbers are telling us. And then we also have the subjective inputs from the team. So we take that, and when we agile coaches are defining our yearly goals, we use the input from that to define our goals, and then we break it down into quarterly goals, and then we also follow sprints. So every sprint we try to make at least one improvement with 2 to 3 teams. So so that is how I think I am done with the time. So basically this is the framework we follow to scale Agile and Salesforce and to build powerful.
We have 5 minutes for Q&A.
Okay, and to build a powerful self-organizing team. So I have a video on self-organization. With that video, I want to share that the way our human brains work. Naturally, we want to self-organize. It is natural that we want to self-organize, but there was this second industrial revolution, third industrial revolution, all that, right? Which have previously focused more upon managing people rather than enabling people. And most of the time we go back to that because that's where we started, and we think that this is how the industry expects us to work and this is how we can be successful. But internally we all want to unlock our intrinsic motivation. So how self-organization is natural, that video will tell us. So I hope there is internet connection on this machine. So in this video, it not only shows about humans but every creature on the planet, the characteristics of self-organization and why do we need it. It is a natural thing which actually needs to be unlocked. It is one of the SAFE principle as well, right? Unlock the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers. We are all doing knowledge work. So the traditional ways of managing people will not work. In fact, we have to enable people. And there is also, I would also share another video link which I will include in the presentation. It talks about why the creativity of developer or programmer should be preserved. It's a 1.5 minute video of Dilbert where he talks about why he has got the knack for technology and what the knack means. Can I? When did you? This is Dell, okay. I am used to Mac. This is how we define context switching, right? System unit. Yeah, this one. We have speakers. Is the volume okay?
Yeah.
So I will be sharing the list of metrics to the organizers, and I hope that will be useful for you when you are defining metrics for your agile organization. And you can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn or through other social media network. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.